Now then, how's everyone doing? Good to see you. Welcome to the first, I don't know, I guess the first midday live. I do a daily live every single day from 7 p.m. But I've decided to start throwing one every now and then in through the day and talk to other like-minded creative people and just see what's going on in different industries, that kind of thing. So it's going to be a slightly different format, I guess. Obviously, we won't be having any music on this particular show, unless EJ wants to maybe pick up the ukulele or something and play a tune on that or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's just going to be us talking about his industry and like how he's coping and stuff during lockdown and whatnot. So if you've got any questions, please get them in the comments in the chat, and then we'll just sort of see how it goes, and we'll just run with it. So I guess we'll just jump right into it, and I'll introduce you to today's guest. This is EJ, who's a tattoo artist from Leeds, and here we go. Now then, mate, how's it going?
Yo, all good. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm doing really well. This is totally foreign to me as well, mate. So we can both relax, because as much as I've been doing my lives, obviously I'm more to do with like the music industry and that kind of thing. But when we were sort of talking, it was actually a while ago we got talking about this. We were on about trying to piece together something, whether it be a live stream or a podcast of some kind, and just talk about like-minded creative people and try get an understanding of what it's like for each other and for other people in different sectors and industries and stuff like that. And obviously, what better time to do it than now, when we have
not creatives are just locked away
with not a right lot else to do.
Yeah.
So, how are you coping, man? Are you doing all right?
Yeah, it sort of comes in waves. Sort of had like a couple of chats with like a few of my other mates that are like arty types, and it's sort of that thing of like 1 minute you're feeling proper like, yeah, I'm gonna go for it, I'm gonna create something brilliant, and then like a couple hours later you sit down and you're like, oh, I'm crap, I don't want to do it. And just sort of saying how like creative minds tend to need constant stimulation and stuff, and through this it's sort of hard to keep stimulated. So like I have my good days, I have my bad days, like, well, I guess like most people, but sort of creatively it's either all or nothing during this lockdown thing.
I think to a certain degree, the reason why I want to do this is to try understand that mentality, because for me personally, like when I'm at my most creative, I'm my happiest. But when I'm low and like everything that I seem to put out is a bag of crap, or every song I write is not good, or every design I do, or whatever it might be, every video I piece together, just nothing seems to stick. Like I don't know if it's the same for you, but I just feel extremely alone and like, well, everyone else seems to be smashing it and killing it at the moment. Why is it different for me?
Yeah, I get that definitely. Like sometimes I'll create something and I'm just like, that's incredible, and I'm on like such a high from it and I'm buzzed, and then sort of there's been other times where I sit down and I'm like, right, I'm going to paint this thing, and then it starts to go a little bit wrong and I'm like, I'm just going to give up and crap. And it can really, really mess with the head. It really messes the head.
So for those that are either watching now or for people that may listen to this later on in whatever format, do you want to just give a bit of a brief sort of introduction to who you are and what it is you do? Yeah. That was the end of my sentence. It didn't sound like it. Yeah, full stop.
So, I'm a tattooist. Been tattooing for. I always get this wrong. How old am I? 27. So, I think I've been tattooing 8 or 9 years ish. Full-time job. Do bits of painting and designing. I do little bits of sort of logo designing on the side for like gyms and like I've done stuff for gyms, personal training things, fighting gyms.
Yeah.
Sort of like the graphic design of that, and just basically anything creative that I can make a living off, I'd do it. I'll try.
So at the moment well, not quite right now because obviously everything's on lockdown, but on a normal day you would be running your shop, which is based in Otley, correct?
Yep. Yeah, I'd be there with the other boys. What day is it? Friday. I'd be tattooing right now if COVID wasn't happening. Being all creative and that.
So what happened then? Like, how hard did it hit you when everything sort of started to grind to a halt?
I think I'd just got back off holiday with my wife. We'd been away for like 3 weeks, so I came back, did like 2 tattoos, and then basically got given a second holiday. So I was a bit sort of chilling because I managed to come back, do a couple of tattoos, and that gave me like a little bit of creative. Like I did something, but then it was like, oh, well, we're gonna have to stay at home. And I think at first I didn't really take the COVID thing too seriously. In a sense,
it was a long run up to it, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, but also, I was in Thailand when it was like happening,
right.
And Thailand, there were like no sign of it. People weren't really wearing masks, and even though Thailand's sort of, I don't know the word, like not as clean as us. Everything seemed fine. The airports, there were nothing. Got back, and there were no
procedures or anything in place there. Then
yeah, absolutely nothing. Even at English airports, and so I didn't think it were going to.
Well, they've only just introduced that now, which is mental.
That's really bad. But I think, I think from what I was seeing, like going to a country that doesn't have certain things in place as we do, and it seemed just like no one's bothered. I didn't think it were going to last long. So when we first sort of got told that we couldn't work, I thought, a couple of weeks and I'll be back.
Yeah.
But then obviously it's been like 43 years since.
God, it feels like it at times, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you get into tattooing? How did you fall into this industry? Is it something that you've always strived to do, or was it sort of like a change in direction from something else or anything like that?
I kind of stumbled into it, to be honest. I've always sort of been an arty person, and growing up I was like obsessed with music, studied music, played in a lot of bands, and then I noticed a crossover of like being at music college and having the notation in front of me, but I was like doodling stuff at the side instead of actually doing all notation. So I kind of found that art was going to sort of go into that direction, and then just started sort of drawing and doing bits, and a few people were commenting and saying, oh, that's really good, that's really good. So I went around, I think I went to 14 tattoo shops to ask for an apprenticeship, and basically got told no constantly from loads of different people. And then I went back to a shop I'd already been to twice to ask again, and I think he sort of saw a bit of determination and was just like, let me in just to shut me up type of thing. And did my apprenticeship there and was there for about 8 or 9 months. My cat is scratching at the front door. So
I thought you were listening to some music. I just thought it was really like.
Yeah, no, it's literally the cat's like that.
Your Instagrams of your cats are so funny, man.
Oh, mate,
so it's just us guys. I don't know when he's going to come back. If you have any questions, get them in the comments, and also if you are new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. I do regular lives. In fact, I do daily lives. This is my first day where I do 2 lives in a row. Anyway, I was just filling time whilst you were.
That's good. The cat. Apologies, my cat is an idiot.
Honestly, if anyone sees your cat on Instagram, it's so funny. Is he in the shop now? Is he there?
It's just, well, he's close. He'll come and headbutt me at some point.
So, anyways, you were saying you managed.
Can I help you, mate?
So you managed to get your foot in the door with an apprenticeship.
So I ended up working there for about 8 or 9 months. It were a proper sort of biker apprenticeship, like the old school thing. So it was like one of the old boys and in a bike gang, and sort of, I had to, in an apprenticeship, you've got to do all scut work. So you've got to be like first one in, make sure the whole shop's clean and sterile. And it's sort of like you essentially, because you don't get paid in a tattoo apprenticeship, because I don't, I'm guessing like the government just don't really see it as a actual thing yet. I don't think they ever will, to be fair. So you basically get taught how to tattoo and get taught things about the craft in return for doing all the jobs that people don't want to do, like cleaning the toilets, cleaning the shop, sterilising all the stuff. And then that also teaches the artist sort of stuff on cross-contamination to make sure when you go off into the world, you're not giving people blood diseases and stuff like that. So, but also when you do an apprenticeship for a biker, you end up cleaning motorbikes as well. So I know a little bit about cleaning bikes on the side. So while I'm doing that,
that's definitely pushing the boundaries, though, don't you think? Just like you've blitzed the studio, you've done all the hygiene and everything. And they just roll up with the gammy bike that they've been cruising around and just like, there's a toothbrush, sort that lot out.
Yeah, which not the kind of guy you question there. So you're just like,
no, I guess not.
It'd be an honour to clean your motorbike.
Yeah. So when you were shopping around to try, get your foot in the door with to be an apprentice, did you have a portfolio to show off then, or were you just I can draw a bit, I want to jump into it? Like, if you could go back, would you change it, if you had any advice for another person that was trying to pursue that career, what would you sort of offer them based on what you've learned?
I think for me, like at the very start, I probably wouldn't change anything, because even though I've had sort of some struggles and hardships throughout my career, it's sort of, I'm at a good point now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, taking a battle to get to where I am, like, but I wouldn't change anything, but anything I'd advise to people, because I got a portfolio, just like a basic ring binder, and put loads of different drawings in of different styles, so that whoever would eventually take me on would, see that I could do a few different styles. And
so were they like a design that you would traditionally see in a tattoo artist book, or were they like your own designs and own style, or something completely different? Like, would it be like, you don't rock up with like a portfolio of landscapes and showing how good you are at drawing, do you? Or do you? I don't know.
Well, yes or no. If you can show that you've got artistic flair in other things, then I guess it sort of helps, and it shows that you. Cat's attacking dog. And it shows that you've got the artistic mind. Just turn around and
we're live.
Idiots, man.
Oh man.
What were I saying? Yes, so just a book of different things. So it might be like some old school designs, and then it might be something that draw something that's realistic to show that I can do a bit of realism side. I mean, at the time I thought like the stuff that I was making was like absolute fire, but looking back at it was crap.
Really?
It's like anything in music. Well, in music, art, all stuff like that. I bet like you'll write a song now that you might think's a little bit naff, but then you listen to one you wrote 10 years ago and you're like, I'm sick.
Yeah, it falls apart in comparison.
Yeah, but at the time you thought it was really good.
Yeah, but that's what I think that's the important part, is because that's the journey that people don't want to. I feel a lot of people want to get to the good bit, where they are really sick at drawing or really good at writing a song. But the reality of it is you have to draw a load of crap before you learn how to draw well, or you have to write like a lot of songs that sound bad, and where you might not be able to sing or whatever, but in doing that you learn your craft.
Yeah, it's one of them in creative things where like you can't. So let's say you were wanting to become like, I'm trying to think of something that's not going to be condescending to the business. So say, I'm just going to say window cleaner because I can say a window cleaner outside.
Okay.
So you want to like become a window cleaner, and then you get the job, and then you've done it. But I find with sort of arty things,
right? Yeah,
you've never completed it.
Yeah,
it's constant, and you constantly get better if you actually want to put the work in. But
I've never really thought about it like that. That's really interesting. Like, there's never any level. is there ever really a true level of satisfaction of where you are? Or, I mean, I suppose you could be satisfied with the level you're at, but there's always room for improvement. It's like me and my guitar. Like, I don't have any aspiration or ambition to want to improve the way that I play guitar. I just enjoy the fact that I'm a solid rhythm guitarist, and that's about as far as it goes with me. I know I can't solo. I barely know any chords. I can, do you know what I mean? But
Just put it in drop D and just
yeah, exactly. I'm quite happy with that. But
yeah.
but but at the same time, I've never really kind of thought about it like that. That the sky is the limit, really, when it comes to art and being creative. And maybe that's why we struggle to feel truly satisfied from time to time, because
Yeah, it's because you never actually get an end. Like you'll get an end product in the sake of like you finishing a song or me finishing a tattoo.
yeah,
But in sort of like career and creative ways, you never get like, there's no certificate being like, oh, you got stage 2, well done.
yeah,
And then like, oh,
clever.
well, I need to got stage 3 now. But like, you don't know where that is, and you have to. The only problem is sort of being in a world of social media, being like the judge.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll put something out that you're really proud of, and like 3 people will be like, nice one, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, well, that's something I kind of I'm really trying to learn to be okay with. Is for me, or more than ever now, I'm just learning to be like, if 3 people like my post, or 10 people or whatever, it's an endless amount of people, whether it be on the lower spectrum or the higher spectrum. The fact that anyone has taken the time to acknowledge it, it's learning to accept that as a win. Because if you're forever chasing, like, if you're truly honest with yourself, what number would it be? What number would it need to get to for you to accept it as, like, to fulfill you? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, and even still, and say now there was like 3,000 people listening to this.
Yeah.
Then you'd be like, oh, but 5,000.
Exactly.
And then you get to that, and you're like, yeah, but 10,000.
Exactly.
And it's just.
I'm absolutely, like, so grateful that anyone's listening to this, and so grateful that people will continue to listen to it when it's on other platforms and stuff like that. But it's taken a while for me to learn to accept that. Like, before, as I think we do live in an age where we rely on numbers, but the numbers don't mean a right lot else, because even like hugely successful or popular artists or influencers and stuff like that get these high numbers, I genuinely don't think they're even satisfied.
No, definitely not. So, yeah, definitely not, because it's constantly just wanting the next sort of. It's that thing of like, well, it's not completed. It's like there's more.
Yeah, which is exactly what you said with the industry, the creative industries, and it's a really interesting outlook. Is that I've for some reason I've not connected those dots before, not seeing it as like seeing it as something that I can complete, and maybe that's the reason why sometimes I don't feel quite as fulfilled. And being self-employed, I don't have like a strict schedule of like I start work at 9 and I finish at 5:30. My brain doesn't switch off. I wake up and I'm like, what can I do today to either be creative, or to network, or to help others, or to help myself, whatever it might be. And then that'll go right up until I go to sleep. And then when my brain shuts off, it'll kick back into those thoughts straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas,
or you do that thing where you've had a really like crap day creatively, and you get into bed and you go, I've got so many ideas.
Yeah.
And then you just can't sleep.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Hate that. But the thing is as well, I think with not having a routine and sort of creative stuff, like for you could get up at 1 in the afternoon if you wanted and start work at 3 and go through till midnight.
Yeah.
And like I could do the same. And I think because there isn't a routine, like human minds work really well off routine. And because we don't have that, it's like, I think that's what can make it hard, because you need to find inspiration from certain things, but you don't have like a time frame, an allotted time frame to do it in. But every time you work, you're going to have different levels of inspiration. So it's like, say your job was to, I'm just picking stuff from what I'm looking at, so I can see some eggs. So say your job is to cook 3 eggs every day. You're doing that, and that's it.
Yeah.
You are.
I said it wouldn't happen, but go on.
Well, no.
I'm only joking.
Vegan for life. But and like that being your job, you know, it's the same thing. But when it's like a creative thing, it's, you know, you're not just doing the same thing, and everything's needing to. You're trying to find inspiration from different bits, but also you might not have it in that allotted time. Does that make sense? I know it's a bit of a weird analogy, but
did you say that the human mind works better with structure, with
routine, yeah.
with routine? It does. Yeah, I thought you said that, but I wasn't sure if you were. Yeah, so that's even in relation to this whole COVID thing. The initial thing that people started talking about is routine. Get into a routine, a new routine, because and try keep it to some form or some degree similar to what you previously did. Like if you worked a 9-to-5 job and you were working from home, get up, get dressed, get showered, as you would do if you were off to work. You know, otherwise your brain starts to think, oh, I'm in my PJs all day, I'm just gonna have a bit of a, you know, chilled sort of.
Yeah.
My brain's not going to be as efficient as it normally would.
It's a massive thing for people.
And I find that, because I don't have a boss telling me what to do apart from my wife, but like I'm
happy life.
Yeah, man. It's one of those, like I feel for people that are struggling to be creative, because, you know, sometimes like you need to give yourself a bit of a kick up the arse, but when it's you having to do the arse kicking, then it's, what incentive have you got? If your mind's telling you that you can't be bothered doing it, yet you're saying to yourself, I really need to do this, which one are you going to opt out for? You know, it's more likely going to be the lazier option and the easiest option.
Well, yeah, because that's how the human mind works. It's like anything. So say like you start running, like you've never been running, you go for like a 5K in the morning, like the first time it's awful, and then you keep going and your body basically adapts to make that easier because it's got its routine. So it's just all built like that.
But also, speaking of fitness, like every time you do any level of fitness or something, it don't have to be fitness, it can be something that's slightly out of your comfort zone, your mind's telling you not to do it for whatever reason, and then once you either do it or once you've achieved it, it's like, oh God, I feel so much better for doing that, or I feel ace that I've done that, what's next, kind of thing. And it's almost like a huge endorphin rush, and you're like ready for the next thing. I mean, even doing this little podcast thing today, like the on the run up to it, you know, the uncertainty of what, you know, what we're actually going to talk about and all that sort of stuff, when really, like, we've got way more in common than we even really know, purely because we're both really creative in totally different ways. Although you've done a lot in music as well, but like it feels awesome to talk to like-minded people and like kind of put it out there and say what, you know, what's on our mind and that kind of thing. And yeah, I just think it's really good, man. So
yeah, just anything creative I get like big involved in. Like I follow like some makeup artists, because even just some makeup I look at it and I'm like, Jesus, that's mental. Or like people who do sewing and stuff. Like I just any sort of creative people, it's, you know, just good to sort of have, because it's weird how stuff will cross over. So it's like, say you finishing a song, it'll be like me finishing a painting or something and trying to find the inspiration for it. But I've also found through this lockdown, when I was struggling with inspiration, I found I basically learned a little bit about myself that I didn't know before, that I think it happened through tattooing, because I'll complete a tattoo and then it leaves the shop and I never see it again.
Yeah.
And I was sort of thinking, and I was just like, right, well, I create art for people and then it leaves me. But I know that sounds really depressing. I don't mean it to be like, hey, it leaves me, I'm upset. Yeah. But I mean, like, you know, it's once it's done, it's complete, it's gone. And so like I was trying to paint stuff, and I think the first thing I did was so I've done like a little series of really tiny watercolors, like they're literally like size a little bit bigger than a matchbox.
Yeah, I've seen that. Good.
I did one of a beach. You know, I thought, oh, I want to do something to do with seaside, and then I remembered Ben and Sophie going to Cornwall, and I remember her posting a picture of a beach that I've also been to, and I remember the picture being really good. Yeah. So then I almost looked at it as like, imagined I were painting it for her, and then I realised, well, if I create my art for someone, hypothetically, then I find inspiration through that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And that's what's really helped me, because then I would just go in through friends like Facebook and Instagram and stuff, and if they had like a nice picture, it's like they were painting off it, and then anyone that might be following me that saw that I did a skateboard the other day, just painted it like with graffiti pens just to make a board that's basically got everything that he's interested in, and then I've just given him that. So it's like I've managed to find my inspiration through my friends, which is which I'd say anyone else to try and if you're struggling for inspiration, like create something that is for someone, and especially in these times as well, people are really clutching at making money.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have to do everything about money. You still need to enjoy it, because yes, art is my job, but I think if you just look at it as your job, it kills it a bit.
Yeah.
So you need to be doing some stuff that is for fun and is for practice. And as long as you're being creative, you're learning, you're getting better. So for me, it was like, well, I'll draw these things, I'll paint these things, and I'll give them to my closest friends and stuff. So they've been gifted with something, like they were really happy with that. So I've made someone happy.
I'll look forward to mine then.
I've got a few more on the way, so you never know. I'll be inspired after this, and I'll be like, right, I need to do one from that.
The thing that you mentioned there, it's interesting, because that to me sounds like you found a sort of you've kind of cracked a bit of a code there, and you've found almost a definitive ending to creating in a good way, rather than it just been like, I'm going to paint and I'm going to wait until the painting's finished, and then because it doesn't have like that transaction or that exchange of physically handing the product to somebody else or putting it on their arm and then them leaving the shop, you've now done that in an instance for you to be able to be creative in other ways. I think that's really interesting that you've kind of worked that out.
And it's finding stuff through different people, because I didn't realise that sometimes I'd do it with tattoo designs. So I once drew it was like a design of two like ballet, like a lass's legs in ballet shoes, in like a thing, in like a circle, and so it's just her up on her tiptoes, and I drew it, and it looks really cool, and like I put it out, and people are like, oh yeah, that's sick, and loads of people that do ballet and stuff and dancers that I know were like, oh yeah, that's sick, I'm gonna get it at some point. Still haven't got in touch, and it's still ready to go. So if anyone wants a ballet tattoo, hit man up. But then I realised that I'd been talking to a lass I know that was a pro ballet dancer, and my mind had sort of made me draw something for her indirectly.
Oh, right.
And then I was thinking back to that, and then like, because in training martial arts, I've got a lot of friends that are fighters, and sometimes I drew something that were like boxing gloves, and I'd been talking to one of my coaches who's a pro fighter, and then I'm like, oh well, I can get stuff from all other angles, like say like I did with Ollie and his brother's company with the beer.
Lost at Sea.
Lost at Sea, yeah. I wanted to do something, and I had a big canvas, and the only colour paints I had were white, black and blue. And that was all I had. And I'm like, well, what's blue? And then I was scrolling through Instagram, and then sort of saw his page, which is the best looking Instagram page in the world.
God, he knows how to market, doesn't he, that guy?
Yeah, big time.
Ollie's amazing at it. He's really good.
And literally just something as small as someone's Instagram page was just like, right, well, I'm inspired now. So then I did a big painting of like his logo and stuff. So like I got a beer thing that's inspired me, my mate that's into skating, so I got a skateboard that inspired me, someone who does ballet that inspired me. Like it could just keep going. Yeah. And then another lass I know, she bought a new house plant the other day, so I drew a house plant in a pot. And it's like so simple, but as soon as I put that out, people are coming back and saying like, yo, that looks sick.
That's something that I keep coming across every time as well. It's for me with music, I keep trying to think, is there something more to it? Am I missing something? When really it's as simple as it's always ever been, and I just don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like,
it is good to question yourself though constantly, because if you get too content, you're not going to progress and you're going to make crap. So like, if you've got it in the back of your head, then it's good.
Yeah, but not to the point where it's stopping you from achieving. Like to the point where you're like, it can't be this simple. Like for you, in your case, like if you get inspired by a house plant and draw that house plant, and that makes someone happy, or you make some money out of it, or you get traction or whatever it might be to build your platform and that sort of stuff. You've stuck to the simple fundamentals, and you've been able to achieve something without overcomplicating it. As I say, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and it doesn't have to be this massively profound moment every single time, because within those small actions that you take is when you start to like see, someone, it's like writing, in my case, writing a song and someone seeing it in a different light, and then them being like, that means so much to me. You won't believe how much those words mean to me, or in your case, how much that image means to me, and that sort of thing. So
yeah, I bet for you it's wild when you'd be playing with City of Lights, and there'd be like a bunch of kids like in front row singing like your tune back to you. I bet that's mad.
if I'm honest, I wish, in hindsight, now I think more than ever, I think I would what's the words? I don't want to say I took it for granted, because I never have really, but you're so engrossed in the whole moment and the whole lead up to the thing, and piecing the show together and all that sort of stuff. It is a great feeling, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to take that away from it, but now I think more than ever I'll be like, I think I'd show way more appreciation for it, and
I think a lot of that's growing up though as well.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, definitely.
Because I remember I did some photography for you once, and I think me and Ben had nipped to the bar or something. It was when you played that Belgrave gig.
Yeah.
And because we'd been there all day and stuff, and then the queue started outside, and we didn't really realise that the queue was forming, so we just went back up the normal way instead of going through a different route or something. Yeah. So they're just there carrying these beers, and it was like packed. We were going downstairs all along, like all these kids ready to go and see this show. And I remember this, there were these two lasses that probably, I guess, were like 13, 14, and they just started acting all like shy and stuff. I went, that's Ben, I think he's the drummer. And I was just like, this is mental. Like, I'm just there like walking with camera, so I even felt like good, because I'm like, yeah, I'm with the band. And it's sort of like you lot doing something creative, and it's got to a point where it's made some people really like, like they got emotionally hyped in a way to sort of just see the drummer walk past, and that in turn has come from songs. So like stuff you've put out has been massive for people, like you say, mental stuff like that.
It's pretty crazy when you think about it, but yeah, that's cool. Yeah, man, that was fun. Was that for the was that, you did a few things with us. You did the Love Your City campaign that we did. Was that for that, or was that for the one of the Porto shows? Or I can't remember which one it was. Or was that the Belgrave? Did you say it was Belgrave?
Belgrave was something different, because I think I took some pictures.
Yes, because you came on the Belgrave stage, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, and kicking out all
the balloons and stuff.
Balloons, yeah.
That's probably one of my favourite shows, man.
Yeah, that one is back.
Oh yeah. Right. Anyway, I think we've had a couple of questions, so kind of going back to tattooing, because that's your thing.
Yeah.
Which tattoo artist inspires you? Or can we split that question up?
Yeah.
Which tattoo artist inspired you when you first started, and has that changed now? Like, who inspires you most now? Because it's developed massively, hasn't it?
Yeah. When I first started out, it was I didn't really know many artists apart from like who were on TV and stuff. But my first massive inspiration was Rich Wells, who's actually from Leeds as well.
Oh yeah.
'Cause he was like a friend of a friend, so he was the first sort of. Come on, listen to this. He was one of the first people that I sort of heard about that did it, because he was a friend of a friend, like I say. And I just look at his stuff, and just because he does like quite old school work, and it was just sort of big bold lines, saturated colour, and I was just like, yo, that's sick. And everything I did, I followed, and sort of tried to take a lot of inspiration from him. Ended up getting tattooed by him quite a few times.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I still think he's a brilliant artist, but I think people that I look up to the most at the minute and get inspiration from. So there's because I do black and grey realism and geometric dot work. And one of the first dot workers that I came across was at a convention in Manchester, and it's a lass from, I think she might be from Birmingham. I might be getting that wrong, but she's called Darren Stevenson. I think she's recently got married, and she might be called something different now. I think it might be Darren Jones. But she does like dot work and stuff. And when I saw her work for the first time, I was just gobsmacked.
Is that when you would you have say you developed and changed your style more to that, swayed it more to that style, or were you always like? Did you start off more traditional style?
I started off a lot more traditional, yeah, and that was just through being inspired by people like Rich. But it was one of them where it just wasn't landing for me. Like, a lot of people will look at old school tattooing and think that it's really simple, but to make something that simple still look good is actually quite hard. And I think I would maybe putting too much detail into a lot of it, so it started to just look a little bit, it wasn't landing properly. So I think that's where the realism sort of came from, because I preferred the detail a bit more.
Yeah.
But going to a tattoo convention, it just opened my eyes that there's like, a lot more. So Darren Stevenson for dot work, and then a guy called Rob Richardson in Kent, I want to say. He does realism, and his work is just undeniable. It's if I could get anything close to his level, then I'll be happy, because his stuff's just bonkers.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
That's
man.
cool. So we have another question from M. Laycock. By the way, that was from Ben Freer who asked that. The guy you were just telling the drumming story about. Which tattoo hurts the most? Or hurt the most?
For me personally, or like as a...
I guess, I think it's just which tattoo hurt the most to you. Yeah.
Probably my throat. This one. So I did put a bit of numbing cream on it.
Emla.
But I didn't. No, the TKTX. It's well good. Next time you get tattooed, use that. You don't feel a thing.
Oh, great.
And I didn't realise how high this was going to go, because it like goes up into my beard, like quite far up. And I think I must have numbed to like there. So like I felt nothing, and then it got to the bit that wasn't numbed, and it was like right on my Adam's apple, and I've got quite a knobbly neck, and it were making like the most gross noise ever. Like you could properly like, like when it's coming through your mouth.
Yeah.
Type of thing, but obviously really fast. So I could hear it, and then once it got to like the bit that wasn't numbed, like I genuinely reckon that's similar to what having your throat cut feels like.
Oh God.
It was very bad.
And that's I mean, it's a very nice tattoo, by the way, but it's a small, like as it goes, it's quite a small tattoo for a neck tattoo. People usually get the whole throat like outlined and coloured and everything. You what? Sorry.
I am going to be building up. That was just like the first bit, and then I'm going to be getting something here by Rich Well.
After you've done it, it's not put you off.
No, because I think you forget about the pain a little bit, and then you've got like a cool tattoo, and this is like over a year old now, so it's about time I get some more pain.
Anywhere else? Probably a bit more of a anywhere else you'd say that would maybe come close second?
Back of my neck were bad.
So basically, guys, don't get neck tattoos. Throat and neck tattoos.
And my knee were bad. I did that myself because someone didn't turn up and I'd already set up. And I was just like, I may as well use the needle, it's out now. So I blasted my own knee and regretted it from the second the needle touched my skin, but I had to carry on, sorry.
That's mental.
And palm of my hand as well. You can't even tell what it is. It was supposed to be an anatomical heart.
Oh yeah, I kind of see the middle bit, sort of.
But it just looks like I've slapped an ashtray.
It's quite common for it to wear out there, though, isn't it? Because obviously it's you use your hands every day, sort of thing. So
yeah, and I was doing it myself, so I could feel it. So it was sort of like a thing of like hurting myself and not wanting to hurt myself. But yeah, it held like crap.
Mind over matter is that, mate? That's pretty tough stuff, I bet.
Yeah.
Have you ever tattooed anyone and then them backed out?
From pain, yes. I've had people sort of get halfway through and then not be able to hack it, and they're just like, yeah, I'm going to have to go home. It's happened with quite a few people, to be fair. Because some stuff, it really, really, really can hurt some people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had to send a guy home. I was doing a portrait on his leg, and he was like a big guy, like a big, like rugby type. You know, just where like everything about them's massive, like even the little fingers just huge. And so he were a big guy, so he was like leant on a. He was leaning against the wall, sat on the tattoo bed with his legs like dangled off the edge. And I was tattooing him, and I just heard him like go, and I looked up at him, and he was like in the middle of passing out, and he was trying to tell me.
Oh my
So
God.
I was like, oh shit. So I put my machine down, and because he was so big and his body had sort of stopped, it pushed the bed from under him, and then he fell backwards down the back of the bed. But the bed was in front of me, so he was just in a heap on like back of his head. But then like obviously the blood's trying to get back to his head, so he starts convulsing. And then someone in shop thought he were having a stroke, so he starts shouting, he's having a stroke, call the ambulance. And I'm like, no, he's not. Like, and it was just absolute chaos. And once
Which
he
shop
finally
was this at? This
out,
shop?
no, this was when I worked over in Castleford for a bit. And yeah, once the guy came around, he was like, yeah, I'm good to carry on. And I'm like, you're not. I was like, have some sugar, sit down, have some food, sort yourself out, and then go home and we'll finish it another time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a scary day.
I bet that was terrifying.
Tattoo machine flying across the room because his leg just went up. Tattoo machine, that
Straight
ninja
to neck.
died, someone dead.
Oh man, that's crazy. Wow. So if like you mentioned that obviously you've pursued opening your own shop and stuff like that. This is your second shop now, is that right? You used to have.
Yeah, so I had a place in Rawdon that was like fully mine. The one I'm in at the minute, I'm sort of like co-renting off the person that's renting the premises because she's got like a beauty bit, and then I've got the bit at the side. So I've like run the tattooing bit, but it's technically her shop. But yeah, I had a place in Rawdon for 2 or 3 years. I think I opened it when I was 21.
What like is what does it take to take that leap? You know what I mean? Like it. Surely there must be an element of comfort and knowing that you're working with somebody else and that kind of thing, and you're sort of collaborating with other artists and that kind of thing. What made you sort of think, all right, now's the time to maybe open my own shop and move forward and do that?
I think I were working at Asda at the time.
Oh, so this was even so you weren't you stopped being an apprentice for a while.
Yeah, so once I came out of the apprenticeship, I left there because of a dispute with one of the other artists who were just a bit insensitive, and I decided like if I stay around him, then something might happen that I wish hadn't happened, type of thing. So I left there and needed money, so I worked at Asda for a bit, but like still did bits of tattooing at the shop I apprenticed at, but like only one day a week to avoid the person that had wound me up. So it was sort of like odd bits of tattooing, but then working full time, stacking shelves at Asda, and completely not knocking jobs like that. But for me, it was just, I hated it. And my mind's just not built to do things like that. And I thought, I get nervous at the concept of being too comfortable, if that makes sense. So it's like, I thought, if I don't take a jump, next thing I know, I'm going to be 50 and I'm still working at Asda. And for me, I just didn't want my life to go that way. And so I went around a load of banks and stuff to try and get a loan, a business loan, and no one would have it because I was like a 20-year-old being like, I want to open a tattoo shop, it's really cool. And they were all like, no, because I had, no assets, no equity, like didn't have a car, didn't have a house, so like no savings. And it was like, oh, well, what have you got to offer if you can't pay it back? And I was like, I got a cool guitar. So like, I obviously wasn't going to get a loan. And then a family friend ended up lending me some money, and I just thought, right, I'm going to go for it. And I had a lot of people doubting me and saying like, oh, you don't know about business, you don't know about this. And, you know, even going back in the day, my business studies teacher thought I'd go nowhere, opened a business though, didn't I? And so I took the jump. Me and my mate sort of went into it together in a way, but he was just a bit of a, his head just, he didn't know what he was doing basically. So it was basically my shop, and with part of his name in, and he just wasted a lot of my time, a lot of my money. And so one thing I'll say: never go into business with a friend. Don't do it.
Really?
Yeah, never do it. I've done it a couple of times where I've had friends work for me, and as soon, because you need to have at work, you need to have that boss,
Yeah.
colleague thing.
Yeah.
But like say like you're at Asda, and you turn up late for 5 shifts. Your boss is going to take you into the office and say, you're not turning up on time, this isn't good enough. And because it's a sort of manager colleague relationship, you know, you take it on chin, you're like, oh well, you're my boss, I've got to do it. But with friends, as soon as you have to be that person that tells off a friend, it makes stuff really weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
So through my experience, I'd say never do business with a friend. And
Interesting.
so he ended up leaving, even though it was just me doing everything anyway. So it was my shop, and he left, and it were all mine. Didn't have to do any paperwork or all to get him out of it because he had been that useless from the start. And so yeah, then I had the shop for a few years, and it were going really good, and had a lot of like repeat clients and stuff, and a few people working with us. At one point we had like 4 artists, and they were all smashing it in their own thing.
Yeah.
And but then so where the shop was, above it was like offices, just like a couple, and they wanted to turn that into a flat. So for legal reasons, they had to take out my ceiling and put in a like insulated 3-hour burning ceiling in case my shop went up in flames. They could get out.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
So they closed me for like a week and a half. Like sent me a letter and like, yeah, you're going to be shut for like a week and a half. You know, we need to do this. And I was like, yeah, fine. You know, fair enough. And then when I came back to work, there were dust all over my shop. They hadn't cleaned it. They'd left a load of stuff. They'd moved loads of stuff, etc., etc. And so I said to him, right, well, you shut me for a week and a half. So I worked out how much rent that was. And then I said, and these are the bills I've been paying. So I basically totted up that it had cost me around 800 quid being shut for that time, like 800 or 900 quid, and that wasn't to do with loss of profits either.
Yeah.
So I emailed him and I'm like, oh, this is this is what I've looked at. The rent was 750, and I said, so in ways you owe me 800, but I'll just call it quits at 750, and I just won't pay rent this month.
Yeah.
And I thought that's only fair, and the landlord were basically like, no. And I'm like, well, why? And he just wasn't having it. And one day I turned up and he'd changed all my locks and wouldn't let me back in because I hadn't paid this thing. Like the months after, I carried on paying.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just that month I thought, well, no, you shut me, so I'm not paying. And so he changed the locks, took me to court, and he'd managed to come up with loads of other figures of stuff that needed doing to the shop. So he tried to sue me for £8,000.
I mean, talk about like you're aspiring to start a business, or I don't know how far into your career you were at this point. You know, you'd taken the leap.
Probably
and
like
then,
5 years in.
So this was 5 years in. So you'd worked there for 5 years at that particular shop.
At that shop, I had it for a total of 2.5 years,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
I worked for 2 years at another shop before.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sort of going in between from the apprenticeship. So
Yeah. Yeah.
by the time it got closed, I was probably 4 or 5 years into timing.
It's just crazy to think that, like, people. Obviously, it's business at the end of the day, and obviously he has a business to run and whatnot. But
Yeah, I can understand looking at it like that, but you know, I don't know why he couldn't have just sort of taken it on chin and realised, you know, he closed me, because he was still getting
Yeah.
the money afterwards.
Absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, ended up going to court, and my dad's basically advised me a really good solicitor, so spent a lot of money on a decent solicitor, and we basically said, right, you can either, because they'd shut the shop, they basically said he'll either pay you the £8,000, but now he's unemployed, so you'll get 30p a month until he dies, or we'll just squash it and you get the 700 quid for the rent that you feel you're owed, and then we'll leave it. And so he took the 700 quid instead of the £8,000, and then about a week after, I got an email and he was like, "Oh, so do you want to get back in shop then?" And I was just like,
No, thank you.
"No." And he's basically told him to do one, and he ended up. The shop ended up empty for so long that I calculated he lost £16,000 for trying to do me over. Whereas, like, could have stayed in there and he could have carried on making money off me. But
I just think it's quite cutthroat in any industry, and it's quite tough to strive to make it, and it's no wonder people either give up or decide that it's not for them and that kind of thing.
I mean, it is a scary world. It's just sort of knowing where to come back. So once that happened, I didn't have enough money to just open up another shop somewhere else. So I had to take some time out. And this cat, man. So I had to take some time out, and ended up working for Leeds City Council for a bit, driving wagons, and just basically to get onto my feet until I could start tattooing again. So, like, what I'd say to anyone is, if you have hit a wall and stuff isn't going a certain way, like, sit back, get back to the drawing board, you know, assess what you need to do to get back to being creative or achieving your dreams or whatever. You know, like, it's okay to mess up a couple of times.
I agree.
It doesn't matter.
I think that kind of goes back to what we were saying before, is that the whole trial and error, and you know, the mistakes and things that happen on the road to get into where you are now. I think they're vital for you to learn and to become better at your craft.
And every time you hit a hurdle or something, you know, even though you don't realise, you're learning really valuable things. So every time something does go wrong, you know, like, log it in your head, because that's important. And then, you know, so, like, now for me, you know, I'm at a point where I know that I wouldn't want to go into business with a friend. I know, you know, there's certain things that I look out for now in terms of people trying to do me over with money, like, you know, thinking that they can sort of take you for a ride in business ways. And so now all those bits have made me more switched on to certain things so that I can make sure that my life and my career goes in a certain direction.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you'll have had the same as well with certain things in the music industry.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, I was just super skeptical about trusting anybody, and like, probably in probably in the grand scheme of things, I've maybe missed out on a few opportunities because of that. And now I think I'd be a little bit more. Yeah, I'll keep my cards close to my chest, but I'll you know, I'll also be willing to hear people out a little bit more these days. For a long time, you know, like, we've missed a couple of management opportunities and you know, certain gigs and things like that, just purely by being a little bit overcautious, rather than just accepting the fact that we could potentially have made a mistake, or we could potentially have succeeded from it. You know, it could have been a good thing, it could have been a bad thing. We should have just enjoyed the journey.
I think it's good to sort of think back on possible things, but definitely don't. Jesus.
So, I mean, after this is going to be audio only, anyways. Just a cat wandering around.
For people that don't know what's going on, my cat is headbutting me a lot.
That's so funny.
For some reason, it's when I talk. Like, if I was sat here not talking, it wouldn't be anywhere near me.
He probably thinks he's saying, "Come over here, come on, give me a headbutt."
Idiot. But yeah, it's, you got to be also really make sure that you don't dwell too much on things of, like, what ifs, because
of course,
because it you know, if ultimately it was meant to happen, it were meant to happen. I think everything does fall into place at certain things. Like, I think, you know, there was just a right. There'll be some things where like it all just starts to fall into place, and all your hard work does pay off, and it just sort of happens. Like, you know, and then so I'm working at the council and doing a job I didn't like, and then a couple of months after that, I'd found myself like sat in a shop with all my tattoo stuff, and we're just like, it's happened.
Yeah, Ben's just posted a little comment now saying about 2 or 3 years ago, me and AJ had a conversation about taking a step back and to take one forward for the better of the career. So like you have to sometimes like for you going to a normal job, by the way, it set that mindset for you to be able to move forward and pursue the thing and just have a bit more clarity in what it is you wanted to actually achieve.
Yeah, and I think it also makes you appreciate it a bit more, sort of having to take a step back, because I ended up doing a job I didn't like, which then made me sort of realise how much tattooing and art is important to me. So then subconsciously when I go back into it, I'm going to be like, well, I'm not coming out of it this time. So you go in with a better head, you know, like say for you, say assembly point stuff wasn't sort of pulling in what it needed, and you ended up having to get like a job at local shop or something, but you knew that in a few months you were going to be able to get back to it. You'd be like, right, let's go straight in and work harder.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like assembly point's always been my it's always been my like sort of, I don't want to say it's been my bread and butter really. It's kind of the thing that I do and I enjoy doing, and I will always do it. The one thing that I struggle with more is my love for music. Like for a while, I just completely fell out of love with performing and singing and playing live, and now more than ever, I'm absolutely loving doing it again, and I'm glad to be back doing it again. But I had to have that break for me to learn to appreciate it more.
I think as well as it's having the right people around you and stuff, because one thing that I've found with like your group especially, like, you know, like you, Ben, Jordan, Ollie, and the lads from band, Ash and Alex. And then even like your brothers and like Adam T and stuff like that, is you all root for each other.
Yeah, man, definitely.
And it's really, really, really nice to see, because I mean, I'm not saying like my group don't do that, but like your lot will really publicly egg each other on, and I think that's sort of like something really blessed that people need to have. And if there's something you're wanting to do and something you're wanting to strive for, if there's people saying no, you need to get them out of your life. I mean, obviously, if your idea is ridiculous, you need people to be like, yeah, because that would be like me trying to start up like a record label tomorrow. I know nothing about it, and I'm stupid. But like, if you've got goals and stuff, and there's people saying you shouldn't be doing it, you know, you need to have a decent set of people around you that are going to egg you on. Because I had a lot of doubts with like when I was going to leave the council, even my parents were like, and I'm like, I'm off back to tattooing, and I'm like, oh, but you've got a good job and it's got a good pension, and I'm like, fuck pensions.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong for one. It's not you saying. I'm pretty certain you're not saying that it's a bad thing for people to have that stability. If that's the life they want to lead, then that's fine. But
definitely not.
It's when I'm all for other people's opinions, and I'm all for people stating that I should and I shouldn't be doing stuff, But at the same time, when I pursue it, I don't need that constant reminder that they don't approve, because that doesn't help me move forward, or it doesn't help the situation improve.
I think with it, it's sort of how it's done. So if, say, I said, "Oh, I'm leaving council. I'm off to tattoo again," like say something like, "Oh, well, have you gone through all your overheads, and do you reckon you'll be able to make it work?" And then when I go, "Yeah," then they should be like, "Sweet, go for it then."
Yeah.
Well,
instead they go, "Are you sure?"
Like, should you really be doing it? But what if this happens? And then you're like, you are just doubting it. Yeah. You're just putting doubts on everything.
But a lot of that's down to their own fear, because I can guarantee you there are probably people out there that are thinking, when I was younger, I wanted to be a professional skater, or I wanted to be a dancer, or I wanted to be something else other than what I am, and something was instilled in them to make them not want to or not be able to strive to do it. And a lot of that
probably do the same thing, and they probably had people telling them not to do it.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the bottle to just go for it. And
But it's still okay. I think that's the important thing. You know, the path where they're at now, as long as they're okay with where they're at, then I don't think you ever run out of time to be able to achieve the things you want to achieve. It just depends on what level. You know, if say for instance I was in my late 50s or something, or even older, and I thought, you know what, when I was younger, all I wanted to do was play music. You could still pick that up and do that, but yes, there'll be limitations. But it's you know, setting a realistic goal and a realistic target of how you want to achieve it. It might even be the simplest form of, I want to play once a week at an open mic, or I want to just write a song a week, or I want to write a song just in general. But it's taking action on those decisions and not listening to everybody's.
And it can come at different times. Like you say, age. You know, age is a number in ways. In a sense of, some people might strive for the goals a little bit later. Like I'm sure Oprah Winfrey. I'm sure she was like on welfare, like food stamps, until like the age of 40 or something, and now she's like a multi-millionaire, like completely.
So you're saying there's a chance, there's a hope for me yet?
Yeah, you're going to be a millionaire soon. You never know.
Nice.
Lenders are forever.
Yes, mate. Right. Well, I've got a couple of questions, and then we'll start rounding off the show, man. I can't believe how quickly this has gone. We've done over an hour already. It's been really good, man. I've really thoroughly enjoyed chatting and hanging out with you. But we'll have these quick questions. They kind of coincide in the similar questions, but slightly different. So we'll just read them both. What's the strangest tattoo? What's the strangest tattoo you have done on someone? That's from John.
So,
bear in mind it's it's not too late in the day to be, you know.
I'll say scientific words for. So the story had basically come from me and some friends definitely didn't break into an abandoned building once, and we definitely didn't go in and drink and just prat about in there. So we didn't have loads of spray cans, and I didn't start spraying loads of.
Where's this going, EJ? Come on.
So I did this really ridiculous drawing, painting with spray paint on this wall of a Chinese man, naked, bent over, with everything showing, and was relieving his bowels. And basically,
wait a sec, are we answering the same question here?
Yeah. So the joke went on for like too much, post to a point where my friend, someone ended up getting the painting tattooed to the shin. Just bear with me, postman's here.
Did he post an anvil? Whatever they're called. Those bloody forge things. I don't know what they're called. I'm starting to regret asking him this question, Jordan. What the hell is he going? Where's he going with this? As if he's wandered off to get his post. When they're in the middle of a bloody live. Postman's here. I'm just going to go get my post. Don't mind me. I'll just sit here like a bloody lemon.
Sorry,
yeah, mate.
COVID's right. Buy too much stuff on Amazon.
Yeah, don't worry about me, mate. It's all good. I'm just here alive and waiting.
Sorry. So yeah, this ridiculous spray painting ended up being tattooed on a guy's shin. So that's probably the weirdest one I've done.
I don't know if I want to ask you the next question now. That's bloody mental. So if you've already answered the question, then I'm sorry, I've only just joined. But if you have only just joined, you can watch it back straight afterwards as well. What is the most awkward scenario you've encountered as a tattoo artist?
That's awkward. I once had a guy came in and he wanted a letter tattooing on his face, and it was like of age and stuff, and I was sort of ready to do it, and as he came close and I put the stencil on, like he just reeked of beer, and then I sort of noticed he was slurring his words a bit, and then it sort of all just started to come together, and then I was like, all right, this guy's pissed, and sort of trying to explain to him that I couldn't do it, and he basically had like a mental breakdown, like crying because I wouldn't do it.
Right.
And that was like mega awkward. But that or having to tell someone to go home because the personal hygiene was really bad.
Not on par.
You are?
Not on par. They were.
Yeah. Because the thing is, it's got to be a clean environment, and when, you know, if you're tattooing something and your face is in someone's armpit, or if you're doing something like in an intimate area and stuff and they stink, it's like, come on, you've got to be clean. So I've had to send people on for that, and that's awkward.
Rather you than me, mate. Put it that way.
Yeah, the thing is, like, whenever I do like a lot of under boob tattoos, so I tattoo like a lot of lasses, and so many people are like, oh, your job's brilliant, oh, I wish I could do that. It's like, there's dark sides as well, you know, like having to shave a man's lower back so that he can get a tattoo and stuff, and, you know, like there's some tough parts of it.
I don't know if I want to leave it on this. we've just gone in a really dark place.
Yeah, the dark side of tattooing.
Oh man, that's brutal. Well, anyways, on that note, like I think we should sort of start to wrap up the show. Have you got any sort of thing you want to maybe sign off with? Anything you want to plug or talk about, just sort of briefly before we finish up?
I think just anything for what it's worth, even if it's sort of good for one person to hear, is if you're wanting to do something, no matter how many doubts it is, be completely true to self and like push on what you need to do. Because for me, I got doubted by so many people. I got doubted by teachers at school saying I was going to be nothing. I just had constant reinforcement that I was not good enough. Yeah. And even from like, you know, doubts from family, even though it might have been through care, you know, sort of making sure that I end up in a good place. You know, like when people say certain stuff to try and be helpful, but it actually sort of cuts you a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, just completely true to self, but also be true to yourself in a sense of don't think that what you've done is enough. Always have a second thought in your head of doubting yourself, because that's good, and you need that to understand that you need to adapt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it kind of encourages you to move to the next chapter or the next stage in whatever it is you're trying to pursue.
Yeah, like
it kind of keeps the fire going, doesn't it? Really. Yeah,
like what we said at the start, it's never completed, so you have to keep going. And if you do mess up, you know, sit back, carry on.
It's okay it's okay to mess up from time to time.
Yeah, always. And you know, like everyone will have it in all different walks and stuff. But yeah, just get your head down and get stuff done. If you're needing to do something and you want to be in a certain place, just go. You know, have a good crack at it.
Well done, mate. I think that was really good. I think that was a good way to sort of round off the show. If people want to find out more about your work, or you know, just you in general, or just check out what you've been doing during lockdown, or even when the time's right to come and get some get a tattoo, where would they find you, and where's best to sort of drop you a line?
So I can be found on Instagram at EJI Tattoo, or Facebook EJ Ibbotson. Either one can message me on there. Instagram's probably a little bit more fun because I put up dumb videos of my animals doing stupid stuff. So
you're gonna have plenty of outtakes from tonight's stream, aren't you? If you cat interrupting you.
Yeah, he's just looking at me like I'm an idiot now. So yeah, it's a bit more fun on Instagram. So if you like tattoos and cats and dogs, then my Instagram's a place to be.
Brilliant. Yeah. So if you you know, you want to go check out EJ's work, please head over to his Instagram and whatnot, and you know, show him some love. And yeah, thank you very much for joining me today, man. I appreciate you taking the time out just to chat to me and sort of try this new idea of talking to creative minds, and it's cool, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's been good.
Right, dude, I'm gonna head out. Thank you again, and I'll see you very soon. All right?
Yeah, man.
You take care, man.
In a bit.
Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Really appreciate the continued support. I know we obviously normally do our daily live at 7 o'clock, which we'll continue to do tonight, and for the foreseeable future, we'll be doing 7 till 8 every day, 7 days a week. But I just thought this would be quite an interesting topic. So I'm gonna probably throw a few of these in, maybe every other week or something like that. I wanna speak to like-minded people, and yeah, I find it extremely interesting, and hopefully you guys do too. Go show some love and support to EJ, and I'll see you later on this evening at 7, hopefully. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you have already subscribed, thank you very much. See you later on, guys.